Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award presentation, sponsored by Broadcasting and Cable, Multi-Channel News, and NBC Universal. Please welcome our host, weekend co-anchor and correspondent, Access Hollywood, Tony Potts.
Hi, everybody. I'll give you a second to get seated. I hear from various reports there's some sort of weather disturbance heading our way. Those of you with flights out tonight or tomorrow, I think there's going to be a little bit of turbulence going up, so hold on tightly if you can. I'll wait a few minutes so people in the back get their seats. There we go. Well, thanks once again and welcome to the 8th Annual Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Awards. We are here in the spectacular Glimmer Ballroom, just down the hall from, I think, Dazzle, Razzle, Glitter, Shimmer, and Flash, which to me sounds like some contestants in the not-too-distant future of Project Runway, but be that as it may. You know, but it is Miami Beach. It's shiny and expensive. They could have gone with Retired and Kosher, but I'm glad they didn't do that for the theme this year here in Miami. One of the things I feel honored to be here, and one of the reasons why is because of the recipients tonight. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, these are the 8th Annual Awards, and this is the first year I'm involved, and actually it's the first year this ceremony has had an outside host. The NATPE has let somebody from the outside, inside of Fort Knox, to come in and penetrate this wall of fabulousness. So I'm honored to be here for that. I will be appropriate for, almost 6:45. An audience of TV people who've had cocktails since about 5:45 and have been drinking all day. So I do have to warn you, though, I do have some leftover jokes from Ricky Gervais and the Golden Globes. So don't make me use them, all right? All right, before we get started, I do want to say how honored I am again to be a part of this. You know, as you know, all of us know, whether you're broadcasters or creators, innovators, buyers, sellers, we all love the exciting challenge of engaging the audience with content. And each of tonight's honorees has mastered the art of bringing that all-important content into viewers' living rooms, most of them for several decades, in a few cases since the beginning of television, as it were. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But content is the key, and the mastery of that, to make moments in people's homes, that's what they remember. They don't remember the graphics and what have you. They remember the moments, and these 4 honorees tonight have made memorable moments for years and years. Right now, though, it's my pleasure to introduce one of our sponsors of tonight from Broadcasting and Cable. Please welcome the Vice President and Group Publisher, Louis Hillison. Louis?
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, everybody. This is a true honor for me as well to be here tonight. My name is Louis Hillison. I'm the Group Publisher and Vice President for Broadcasting and Cable and Multi-Channel News. We are proud again to be here with you all and sponsor this marquee event here at NATPE. I just want to thank, on behalf of everybody at Broadcasting and Cable and Multi-Channel News, congratulations to Dick, Mary, Regis, and Gerhard. Hope everybody enjoys the remainder of their evening and the cocktails here and the remainder of NATPE. Short and sweet, have a great evening. Thank you.
We like that. We'll be dinner by 7:30. Thank you, Louis. Broadcasting and Cable and Multi-Channel News, and also NBC Universal for your continued support. Now let's welcome the former host of these awards, a man who did such a great job in the past. We asked him to come back and say very little. The President and CEO of NATPE, Mr. Rick Feldman.
Good evening, everyone. So apparently my part has been recast, and my hosting responsibilities were taken from me and given to a younger man. It happens, and I owe it all to Phil Guerin. Thank you very much. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Brandon's 8th Annual NATPE Birthday Party. As we note each year, Brandon's birthday is in January, so we celebrate him, his work, and his memory with these awards. What a special group we have collected for him tonight. This year's honorees represent well over 100 years of television excellence. And that's just Regis. Now, 16,000 hours of television in the Guinness Book of World Records is Regis Philbin. And Regis had to announce that he was going to be giving up his show later this year so he could prepare for what's going on this evening. So thank you very much, Reg. So all of you know Reg, Mary Hart, and Dick Ebersol very well. Some of you may not know Gerhard Zeiler, our first legacy recipient from offshore, but you will after tonight. And I'm sure that you'll all agree that he is well qualified to be in the company of his fellow honorees. We are so proud to have all of them here to pay tribute to Brandon's name. So Tony promised I'd be brief, and who am I to break a promise? But of course, I would really like to thank Broadcasting and Cable and NBC Universal, also our friends at 2C Media, especially Adam Cronin, who produced the tape on Brandon. And thanks also to our presenters and our distinguished honorees. A commercial, although I have to get in tonight, is that at 10 o'clock tonight in the Live Ballroom on the right of the lobby, we will have an hour concert featuring Daryl Hall. So if any of you are around at around 10 o'clock, it's gratis, and thank you to Scott Sternberg for that. It adds a little spice to the NATPE program, and if you can make it, you should drop by. Of course, after thanking everyone that I've already thanked, the person I really want to thank most of all is the special woman I invite to the stage now, Lily Tartikoff Carrots.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us at the 8th Annual Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Awards. It is your presence here that shows us that you share his love for television. Brandon always looked forward to attending NATPE. He came up with any excuse to talk showbiz. He so valued the people that created the great shows, and he lived to be a part of the process. The four extraordinary people accepting his award share his same passion for the industry, and through their talent and their leadership, they have each brought their own genius to the field. As a broadcaster and cultural icon and Notre Dame's biggest fan, Regis Philbin has parlayed his 4-decade-plus career into that Guinness World Record for most hours on camera. Regis generously invited us into his life every day to entertain us, comfort us, and just make us feel good. For the last 3 decades, my dear friend Mary Hart has hosted the #1 syndicated entertainment news magazine show in the world, covering not only our business, but also major events on a national and global scale. And anyone who has ever followed Mary's career will agree that her talent, her beauty, her intelligence, her charm really has gone unparalleled. And speaking of global importance, it's our pleasure to honor our first international executive, Gerhard Zeiler. As CEO of the European Television and Radio Network, RTL Group, Gerhard has been instrumental in the growth of RTL, whose 45 television channels and 32 radio stations reach nearly 200 million people every year. Brandon Tartikoff would have loved those numbers. And finally, Dick Ebersol. The world knows Dick as a legendary sports producer, executive, and visionary. I am fortunate to know him as family. Dick and Brandon were best friends in life and best friends in TV. They literally could finish each other's thoughts. And between the two of them, they owned the most information about television, period. I am grateful to have Dick, Susan, and Ebersol Jr.'s in my life forever, but it is hard to describe how much I miss the Dick-Brandon duo. Before we turn the spotlights on our recipients, I'd like to thank our sponsors who often turn their spotlight on Brandon, Broadcasting and Cable, Multi-Channel News, and my friends at NBC Universal for supporting this event from the very beginning. And lastly, I'd like to thank our relentlessly committed president and CEO of NATPE, who has been keeping Brandon's vision alive and who has helped us hold television so high. Thank you.
Our first award of the evening. Please welcome the president of CBS Television Distribution, John Nagowski.
Hi, everybody. Well, this has been, for me, 27 years in coming. Mary and I think we met when we were 12, and she's still younger than I am. Hate that. I am honored to even be a part of this ceremony because she's so beloved, and everybody in this room who has spent any time with her knows exactly what I'm talking about. There isn't one bad bone in this woman's body. And, I've had the pleasure of getting to work with her for my entire career at Paramount, and then CBS Paramount, and then CBS Television Distribution. In every, process or every change, nothing changed with her. And, we sit here with really something that I think no one else can really stand for is the entire time that Mary has hosted the show, we've been #1. And I don't know of any show that has that. And the other thing I am sure of is I don't know anyone who gets interviewed by her or anything that she says about anyone that anyone takes out of, that feels that they were taken out of character or that they were treated improperly. I think she is just the ultimate class act. And I think that goes a long way in a business that has, plenty of people that, have plenty of bad skeletons in their closet. There's none with Mary Hart. In her personal life, she is tireless as well. I mean, this is a woman who works 24/7 doing our show and then goes on and does endless amounts of charity work. And I will tell you just recently, on behalf of somebody who was very dear to us, how much she and her husband Bert helped a close friend of ours, help them with their child. And it was all part of them that, kept him alive as long as they did. And I think that family owes a lot to them, and we owe a lot to you, Mary and Bert, for helping as much as you did. She defines what Brandon did. Brandon, for a short time, was at Paramount, and he, in his short time there, I got to know him, and the two of them are so similar. And I think that's why, Mary, you deserve this award. The fact that he believed in television the way he did. He was so passionate about it. Mary's the same way with our television show. She's passionate, she shows leadership, she has complete independence, and she has vision. And I think the one thing that, defined the two of them that isn't in the kind of the motto of what the Brandon Tartikoff Award is class. And the two of them were two of the classiest people ever. And with that, I'd like to bring Mary up here because this year she gets the Brandon Tartikoff Award. She deserves it.
It's my pleasure to introduce you to Mary Hart. Please welcome Mary Hart.
Mary, you beautiful woman, you.
Mary's in the city. We're going to do a duet together.
It was was 1964 when we first met.
Was that polite?
I didn't know quite what to do. The only thing I could think of was to start asking rapid-fire questions. I always say that was my first interview. I know, Lynn. Has your attitude changed?
My attitude has never changed. I treat people as I find them and how they treat me.
Did you ever dream that you would be pushing 93 and still be doing it?
I'm not interested in anything I did yesterday anyway. I'm only interested in what I'm doing now and what I'm going to do tomorrow.
If there's one thing you want people to remember you by. Brandon, when you were growing up in New York, you went to the movies and you saw the Paramount Mountain and the logo. Did you ever dream that one day you'd be right here on top of the mountain?
I can't say that I did. When I was growing up, Paramount did make an impression on me. Like millions of kids all over America. Cecil B. DeMille's 10 Bananas.
To really make a mark in life, there's a lot more good to be done in other areas for our kids. Thank you.
You still like to take chances and like to go out there and experience new things.
Well, of course I do. I'm not dead. Thank you for sitting down with me. How do you two deal with each other at home?
I never win a debate at home. I mean, I haven't won that one yet.
Are you going to run for president? Was there a point at which you said, I can't deal with this?
I really now can say the tumors thought I really benefited from my experience with cancer.
Do you feel like you have both grown tremendously in the years since Titanic?
Surprisingly not.
This happens to be one of those rare, perfect people. Look at how happy she is.
Yeah, you look really nice. Your hair's better than mine. Yeah, I know.
Entertainment tonight with Tom. Hey, you're wrong. The very first time that somebody put a microphone in my face, I knew I wanted to be on the other end of the microphone. And here I am, doing what I love to do.
Oh, thank you, everybody, so much. It's really fun sitting in this room for me because looking back over the years, so many things come flooding into my brain. First of all, John, thank you for that wonderful, heartfelt introduction. I so appreciate that, and you know how much I have loved working with you all of these years. I want to thank my dear friend Lily. Lily, it was months ago when I said I would be so honored to receive this Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award, and I love you and respect you dearly. And then I had forgotten that Brandon and I had walked on that back lot at Paramount Studios, and we had talked about his childhood dreams, and here he was, running Paramount Studios. There's just one problem with this whole perfect picture. I worked for Brandon Tartikoff 32 years ago with Regis Philbin, and he fired us. Ha! What gives? So the perfect Brandon Tartikoff, who we all love and adore, obviously made one mistake in his life. I hope we have that on tape somewhere. Rick Feldman, Board of NATPE, thank you so much for bestowing this honor on me, because it really is. And I can make jokes about Brandon and Regis. You probably have your version of the story. I can't wait to hear your side of the story, by the way. We won't have dinner until 11 o'clock tonight. But Regis, I meant because I'm going to go on and on. No, here is the wonderful thing about tonight, and that is the history that we share together, whether it's Brandon and Lily, or it's Dick Ebersol and my husband, Bert Sugarman, or it's Regis and me, because had we not been canned at NBC, I never would have had the opportunity to join Entertainment Tonight, which was in its infancy. It was that first interview that I did just a few months into the run of E.T., where they called up and said, how would you like to come and talk to us about what it feels like to be canceled? I said, that sounds great. The good news was I could say how uncertain the future looked. And the next day they called and they said, we think you belong in our family here. And I said, well, what is this family? What is this new show called Entertainment Tonight? Because nobody really did know. I want to thank my friends who are here tonight, part of my CBS family. Linda Bell Blue and I have been together for 16 years now, working on such fun and very often meaningful projects. I mean, it's, you know, I remember those early years, and many of you in this room might too, where they said, entertainment news, come on, there's not going to be enough of that to fill 5 nights a week. And we set out to prove them wrong, and we have. And in the process, created so many imitators in the business and realized that it wasn't just the other new shows creeping up in our time slot, whether it's you, Tony Potts, you started at ET on Extra, or it was Access Hollywood, or you name them. You know, what we did created a genre of TV that has flooded, has imbued every corner of television with entertainment news, because what we set out to do, we did successfully enough that everybody realized we had started a good thing. But the most gratifying part of this, and working with the best sales team in television, Scott Kundell, John, of course, back in the days of Paramount, and Mark Hersher out here too, and Paul, all of you guys, we did with a passion, because in those first few years, it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that easy convincing station managers and programming directors that Paramount was committed to ET and would make it a quality show and would make it work and make it habit-forming in American households. And to be in this position now, looking back 29 years, where Americans across the country come up to me and people, actually around the world, and say, thank you for coming into my home. Thank you for bringing me such joy and news about the entertainment business. And they even use the gossip word, and that's okay today. But it has been my privilege and my pleasure, because I was a girl from South Dakota who started at KELO-land TV, KELO in good old Sioux Falls, and went on to WMT in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and then to KTVY in Oklahoma City, and then KTTV in Los Angeles, and then found Regis, and then found Entertainment Tonight. I have been so blessed. I so cherish my roots in local television stations. I know that this world that is changing so much around us will always be solid, and we will all continue to do in some form or another what we do. Anyway, thank you so much. God bless you all, and I appreciate it.
I don't know if I can walk on to the Entertainment Tonight music. Maybe a contractual violation here, I'm not sure. We had a small technical glitch earlier when Lily was speaking. The Brandon Tartikoff tape did not roll, so if we have that now, can we please, we can roll it now? Go ahead, please.
Imagine, if you will, a 7-year-old boy sitting nose to screen in front of a 7-inch Dumont television set. He begins to fantasize that if he tried hard, he could shrink to a tiny size and crawl inside the set. Then he could live and breathe television from the inside all day. That boy got his wish.
Since 2004, the Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award has recognized the most innovative leaders and artistic visionaries in television. They are men and women who have shaped the business, inspired their colleagues, and left an indelible mark on our culture.
It's a singular honor. It's really unlike anything else.
The prestige of the Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award comes from the inspirational life of its namesake and from the caliber of its distinguished honorees.
I definitely think that in keeping with the spirit of the award, tonight's honorees reflect Brandon's integrity and Brandon's character.
Collectively, their creative vision continues to define what is popular and what is possible in a business that changes every day.
He contributed so much to so many audiences out there.
Brandon was the epitome of class and competition, and everyone who's come since him has wanted to emulate Brandon Tartikoff. There's never been anyone in the business like him.
Tonight's Legacy Award recipients embody Brandon's spirit and are tremendous examples of his passion, vision, and leadership.
He truly was a man that loved television. And I'll never forget the one thing he said, which was 90% of the sale in the room he had was the passion.
This year's honorees truly have made a lasting contribution to the legacy of our craft.
In the service, I had a tough old Marine who said to me, "Don't you know you can have anything you want in this life? You've only got to want it bad enough. Now, do you want it?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And I jumped in the car and went to Hollywood. And that's how it all started for me.
I think I wanted to be in television from as far back as I can remember anything. I still love going on location with the TV shows or taking a behind-the-scenes look on location of a new film. Because it's that fantasy, it's that creativity that just surrounds you, that is so much fun to witness.
First, be smart. Second, work hard. And third, be passionate about TV, as Brandon Tartikoff was.
NATPE takes great pride in recognizing this year's honorees and adding their names to an exclusive list, representing some of the finest talents in the history of television. Tonight, we celebrate Brandon's legacy. NATPE, in association with Broadcasting and Cable, Multi-Channel News, and NBC Universal proudly congratulates the 2011 Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Awards recipients.
Now, please welcome the president of 20th Century Fox Television Distribution, Mark Kaner.
Hi there, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to honor my friend Gerhard Zeiler. After listening to the initial presentation from Mary Hart, I can tell you that mine's going to be a little bit different. But I know that Gerhard was absolutely humbled and honored to receive the Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award. And so I went and did a little investigation on the award itself. I found out that it was created to recognize television professionals who exhibit the 4 pillars of excellence, and those are extraordinary passion, leadership, independence, and vision. And in a few minutes, you're going to see a video about Gerhard that'll speak to all of those qualities that he's exhibited and why he's here today. I actually wanted to talk about a couple of other little things that have also brought him here today. They all go together with these same 4 pillars of excellence. So let's start with extraordinary vision. When you think about the prior recipients, these incredible men, Stephen J. Cannell, David E. Kelly, Stephen Bochco, Dick Wolf. Doesn't the name Gerhard Zeiler just trip right off the tongue? I mean, look at this guy. That's extraordinary. You know, really, what took NATPE so long to acknowledge the Duke of Zeiler with all of his incredible accomplishments? While he may not be a household name here in Miami or LA or New York, the fact of the matter is there's a little house in Rome where he's well known. That's not photoshopped, guys. That's actually Gerhard with the Pope wearing that really neat yarmulke. Another pillar of excellence is extraordinary passion. Gerhard is a passionate guy. I mean, he's getting the Legacy Award, and after all, the word leg is in legacy. And Gerhard, there you can see him using his leg to exhibit this passion there on the soccer field. He does that often in his board meetings. He recently broke a vase trying to knock off one of his board members in Gütersloh. He's also, really passionate about all of the people where they see him on the field. I mean, this next slide will show you just how excited he is on the field. It's enthralling. Another thing with Gerhard is his extraordinary leadership, which is another one of these pillars of excellence in the Brandon Tartikoff Award. And very few people know this, but Gerhard, as a young man, spent a tour of duty in uniform for the Austrian Navy. And really, you'd have to be brave to be in that uniform. I mean, you can see him right now guarding the great gay wall of Gütersloh. Fantastic, Gerhard. Truly, I paid a lot for that photo. The other thing is that, again, finally, with the extraordinary independence, this man is incredibly independent. Probably none of you know here that Gerhard is, in fact, an identical twin. And there he is. That's Gerhard on the left, next to his brother Helmut. And even as a very, very young man, at 2, he was exhibiting this extraordinary independence and helped his parents recognize him and differentiate him from his brother. What did he do? He grew a beard. Now, I love guys with beards, especially when they turn out to be incredibly successful men, and especially when they have an incredible sense of humor, because I have ripped the crap out of him all over the world. I want to tell you that you're going to now see something a little bit more serious about Gerhard, and then I'll just say a few other things. Can you roll that tape on Mr. Zeiler?
RTL is Europe's biggest entertainment network. There are 39 TV stations, 32 radio stations in 10 countries, and there's Fremantle, which is worldwide. Gerhard took over RTL Group 6 or 7 years ago, and I think in that time, he's had the greatest success it's ever had.
He is extremely respected by all members of our industry, and the results speak for themselves.
Gerhard began his career as a spokesman for the Austrian government. He was a press officer.
The amazing thing about Gerhard is he still looks exactly like he did 20 years ago. I mean, also, does the guy own another pair of pants other than jeans?
Truly, it's because he has a legion in the fashion center of his brain. But he's extremely formidable, and that's largely because he has a team of people behind him that are willing to, firebomb your car if he doesn't get his own way.
He was always a fierce, unbeatable competitor. He kicked our butt day in and day out. So deep from my heart, I never liked him.
He knows intimately all about this. He understands really in a very deep way what audiences want to watch. And his judgment and his nose for great programming is one of the reasons why RTL Group has been such a successful group in the last few years.
There's only one Mr. TV Europe, and that's Gerhard Zeiler.
Okay, what's the dream?
I'm trying to be a professional singer.
Everything about Gerhard is unique. He is incredibly good at business, but he does have an extraordinary nose for good programming. He loves programming, which is why I love him.
He's easy to talk to. He says what he means. When you shake his hand, you know you can take it to the bank.
Always there, always ready to help, either professionally or on a personal basis.
He's not a flashy guy. He's a very humble person.
I'm sure as he's sitting here listening to everybody say all these great things about him, he's slowly sinking in his chair, pulling his collar up, and trying to disappear.
Gerhard, I want to congratulate you. It's entirely right that you are the first non-American to be awarded this award.
Congratulations, my friend. It's been a great ride. Look forward to many more years with you.
Gerhard, we're all very proud of you. Congratulations.
So, I'm very seldom serious, but right now I'm seriously happy to recommend this award for this great man, great broadcaster, a great programmer, and a remarkable friend, Gerhard Zeiler.
Would you believe me? Dear Mrs. Tartikoff, ladies and gentlemen, you probably have heard that 100 times, but I have to say that nevertheless, it's really an honor for me to get this award. I would lie if I said a dream came true, because this award has never been even near my dreams. It was always ways beyond. When I started as a young TV executive in the 80s, first in Austria and then in Germany, that's what we did at that time. We looked at the US. We looked at the TV industry here in this country, and we saw one person, one man, stood out from them, and that was Brandon Tartikoff. He was our idol. We bought the shows he commissioned and helped to create. We tried to copy his positioning, his scheduling skills, and we read everything what we could read about him and of him. To have an award with his name on is more than I ever dreamed I would achieve. A lot has changed since these days. The TV landscape all over the world is more diversified than ever. The viewers really have an incredible choice today, and they really can watch what they want, when they want it, and on the device of their choice. And yes, the people are right, there are challenges out for our industry. Challenges, whether it's piracy or the new gigantic players who want to get in the game. But one thing has not changed. The principles which differentiate good from bad, successful from unsuccessful programs. Principles like that a show only can be successful if it's getting into our hearts, if it touches us in one way or the other, or that it has to relate to our lives, connect to us, or that it has to be original and not a copy, and that it has to be executed brilliantly. And as long as we in this industry hold up these principles which Brandon Tartikoff taught us, as long as I'm sure that we have no reason to be scared about the future of our industry. I want to say a few thanks. I want to say thanks to Mrs. Tartikoff. It's really an honor to be here today. Thank you, NATPE, Rick Feldman, and the board of directors who gave me this award and is giving me these awards. It's really an honor to be the first non-American to have that. I also want to say thank you to Mark for another humiliating introduction. I'm used to that. Thank you for this friendship. I want to thank my team who do most of the work and let me have the fun. I want to thank my shareholders who give me an enormous freedom in what I do. Unfortunately, they don't know that I would do the job even for half the money. And last but not least, I want to thank you. I want to thank the American TV industry. It's an industry we always have and we always will be learning from. Thank you very much.
I like the fact that Gerhard gave up the aforementioned jeans, but he's still sporting the blacked out Pumas. Very well done. Now please welcome the president of Disney ABC Domestic Television Distribution, Janice Marinelli.
It is such an honor for me to introduce the Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award winner, Mr. Regis Philbin. Over the amazing course of his career, much has been written about Regis, particularly in the last week. He is known as a national treasure, a television icon, a multi-talented entertainer, a pioneer in daytime television, and so much more. And for those of us who know Regis personally or have had the opportunity to work with him, we also know Regis as the ultimate professional and a consummate gentleman. For me personally, working with Regis has been one of the most rewarding parts of my career. In fact, it was at the 1988 NATPE conference in Houston that we first introduced Regis and Kathy Lee to our station clients. 23 years later, here we are, Reg, back at NATPE again. Everyone in this room knows how rare it is to find a talent like Regis Philbin. Day in and day out, he's charming, warm, funny, classy, insightful, and genuine. He's the kind of guy that you want to have coffee with. And fortunately, for our company, millions do every weekday. But of course, Regis's TV legacy started well before live and will extend well beyond it. He is more than a talk show icon. Regis is an enduring and important part of our culture. As the world now knows, Regis will be retiring from live later this year. And while that makes us already yearn for our favorite morning companion, we take comfort in knowing that this ageless and beloved man has no intention of retiring from the entertainment industry. I know I also speak for our partners at WABC and the ABC Television Group, Rebecca Campbell, Dave Davis, and Michael Gelman. We will all dearly miss working with Regis. Before we roll a short video honoring Regis, I'd like to acknowledge the woman who completes the man, the beautiful Joy Philbin. And lastly, unable to join us tonight, but sending her congratulations, is Regis's talented and captivating co-host, Kelly Ripa. And now, prepare to witness one of the most daunting achievements in the history of video presentations, trying to encapsulate a legendary half-century career in less than 4 minutes.
Personality is what a genuine, warm, engaging human being shares with his audience.
And we're going to get a thigh massage. Show them the sweat.
And it's what set Regis Philbin apart for more than 50 years.
A romantic. When the fourth baby was born 9 months from now.
Of all the TV icons we've watched through the years, it's Regis Philbin who holds the Guinness World Record for the most hours in front of the camera.
You're gonna love the big daddy. You're a super dad.
So join me, if you will, for a look back at Regis Francis Xavier Philbin. It all began in 1955 when Regis broke into broadcasting. According to legend, Regis filled in one day as a sports reporter when the regular guy had too much to drink. Next up, a local San Diego late-night show. Which soon became a major hangout for Hollywood's biggest stars.
From Hollywood, it's that Regis Philbin show.
Then, Regis landed a gig hosting his own national talk show. Later, as Joey Bishop's sidekick,
Ladies and gentlemen, Regis Philbin.
Regis took the spotlight. Regis spent the next few years proving he could do just about any job there was in broadcasting. In 1975, Regis landed a gig hosting AM Los Angeles. Then, NBC called to offer him his own national talk show.
Welcome to the Regis Philbin Show.
No one's sure whatever became of that Mary Hart girl.
I'll never leave you.
In 1983, Regis returned to New York to host a morning show, trading the wife of one famous athlete for another.
Grass never grows in the playground.
A couple of years later, Buena Vista Television recognized what New Yorkers already knew. They called the club, and in an unprecedented event for television executives, they were telling the truth.
Put it right here, you know?
That's not where you're supposed to put it.
2 decades later, Regis is still at it, better than ever. Yes, other shows have celebrity guests, but when you visit with Regis, it's special.
The secret to doing Regis is just barking.
There is a little peephole, and I want you to stop using it.
That's why Regis Philbin has a place in our hearts and our popular culture. Regis is everywhere. Regis is undeniably cool.
How you doing, buddy? Doing good. Regis Philbin, ladies and gentlemen.
Everyone can be famous for 15 minutes. It takes a true star to be famous for half a century. Regis Philbin earns our affection just by being himself. And that is the greatest tribute of all. When you wish upon a star, you dream come true.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Janice. It's nice to be up here, and that was quite that told the whole career right there, going way back to, well, actually, it was in the 50s where I started in KFNB TV. I was doing the feature desk thing, and it was great fun. But anyway, I'm here tonight because of Brandon Tartikoff and his legacy and the award I'm receiving tonight. And I want to tell you all this, and Lily, especially you, Lily, that I never met Brandon Tartikoff. I didn't know Brandon Tartikoff. But there was a little chapter in my life where, well, he was very important in my life. In 1974, the summer of 1974, I wound up at WLS, the Chicago affiliate of ABC, and I was doing the early morning show. In those days, there was no Good Morning America, but each station had their own little Good Morning America show for that particular town. And I enjoyed it very, very much. And one of the reasons was that I had a terrific producer there, a guy named Rick Ludwin. And all he talked about was Brandon Tartikoff. Every morning we would meet before the show to go over the guest list or whatever it was, and he would get another Brandon Tartikoff story. And he loved Brandon Tartikoff, and he thought he was so creative and so imaginative, but he had left the station a little while before I got there, and he had moved on. And so did I move on, and I eventually wound up later that year at Channel 7 WABC TV in Los Angeles. And I was doing the 6 and the 11 o'clock news. 6 o'clock news, I was reviewing a movie. 11 o'clock news, I would go out to a party somewhere and bring back a bunch of celebrities celebrating whatever it was. It was good. It was a lot of fun, and the ratings improved a little bit on the news. But then in 1975, the morning show that they had there became open, and I went to John Severino, my general manager, and told him, you know, Sev, this is what I usually do is a talk show. And he said, no, well, we can't take you off the news. I said, well, supposing I did it both. He said, all right, then you can do it. Well, it was a 90-minute show and a 6 p.m. and an 11 p.m. news, and I was working myself into a coma. It was really tough. And so I finally went to Sev after a year and a half, and I said, you know, Sev, you win. I can't do it all. So he took me off the 11 and gave me the 6. And he was a lot of fun. He was a great general manager. When it came time to negotiate, he would call me in. I never had an agent in those days. And he would say, he was an Italian guy. He'd say, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 4 pieces of paper. And you're going to give me 4 pieces of paper. And you're going to write on that paper what you think you deserve to get as a raise in the first year, in the second, third, fourth year. And then we're going to look at this and we're going to see who's right and who's wrong. Believe me when I tell you, he killed me every year. I'm still trying to make it up with. So anyway, but it was a lot of fun, and it was at a charming station, which is no longer there now at Prospect and Talmadge, and we had great times there. And anyway, the show, I turned it around into what I used to do in San Diego in 1961. That's 50 years ago, folks. Saturday night show. That was the beginning of the whole thing for me. And so it was that long opening, and then we would go through some guests and maybe do a demonstration, almost the same thing as what we're doing today. And so at the end of it all, Severino went on to become the president of ABC. And a lot of it was attributed to the ratings in the news and on that morning show. We had fantastic ratings, and he was very happy, and I was happy for him. But then my contract came up, and believe it or not, the next general manager never called me in to say, hey, come on, let's get 4 pieces of paper. No. Never heard from them. And so for about 6 weeks after the contract had expired, I was still there. I was happy doing what I was doing, but the phone rang, and I got a call from one of the big names in Hollywood, Grant Tinker, one of the most respected producers, so on, in our business. And he said, I've been watching your morning show for 8 years now. He said, I'd love for you, I've just taken over NBC, and I'd love for you to come over and do it for NBC. And that's what I could never figure out at where we were in Channel 7 in Los Angeles. I wanted to be live. I had to be live, and yet if I was to do it live and get it syndicated, and there were syndicators who would come around, I'd have to do it at 6 a.m. in the morning. Impossible. So here was a guy telling me I was going to go national at NBC. And he said, well, are you under contract now? And I said, as a matter of fact, it expired a couple months ago. And so he said, well, gee, think about it. I'd love to have you here, and think about a co-host, too. So I began thinking about it with my wife, Joy, and I wanted to go national so bad, but there was one hitch. Actually, there turned out to be a couple of hitches. But one of the hitches was that it would be on a one-day tape delay because we couldn't do it at 6 a.m. in the morning. And I remember years ago getting my first break in national, replacing Steve Allen for Westinghouse, which had then owned CBS, and the tape delay was 2 weeks, so that everything I talked about was dated. I mean, I knew the show wasn't going to make it, and it didn't make it, but that was a horrible. One day I thought, well, maybe, but I still missed being live. So then one day I'm walking on Rodeo Drive with Joy, and here comes this beautiful blonde, and I had been watching her on KTTV. She was doing a show called PM West, and she was the headliner on the show. And she had a great face and a great speaking voice, and she just ate up the camera, and I said, wow, she's dynamite. And so I went up to her, and I introduced myself, and of course it was Mary Hart, and I told her what was happening and would she like to join me, and she said, oh, yeah, she would. Why not? She's dying on this little KTTV show. So about 3 weeks before we were to go on, Grant Tinker called and said, New York has cut the show in half. You're just going to do 30 minutes. I said, but Grant, I really can't do what I want to do. That opening segment has got to be 15 to 18 to 20 minutes sometimes, and that's the linchpin of the show. He said, well, the guys in New York. Anyway, we go on the air, and I was heartsick that I had taken away from her big show, and here I was trapped in this 30-minute thing, and I knew I wasn't going to make it, and sure enough, we went, I think, about 6 months, right, Mary? And then we were off, and I was sick about it. And the next day, the phone rang in my house, and I thought, oh, my God, somebody's heard we're off the air. They want Regis. Guy calls by the name of John Goldhammer. He was Severino's program director. Yes, John. He said, how do I get in touch with Mary Hart? Now, I would have to protect Mary Hart because, 30 years ago, she's great now, but you should have seen her then. All these animals were coming around. Hey, Mary, And so I would kind of step between them. And I said, what is it, Goldhammer? What do you want? He said, no, I just want to talk to her. I said, about what? He said, well, we're starting a new show. It's not a news show, but it's all about entertainment news. And I think she'd be great. I said, you've got the right girl. She's going to be tremendous. And so I gave him the number I had on Mary, and she took it from there. And you know what happened to her. What did she do the last 30 years? But anyway, she became a national institution. So Mary Hart went to work the next day, and Regis played Pac-Man at home. Honest to God, Pac-Man for a year and a half. And then John Severino called from New York, and he said, you want to come here? This guy was quite a character. So I said, Seth, I was born and raised in New York. I dreamed about television. I was a page for one summer at NBC at 30 Rock. I said, yeah, I'd like to go back and see what it's all about. So Joy and I went back to New York, and it was during Washington's birthday, and there was snow on the ground, and I met with him, and we talked, and I went to the station and talked with the guys, and it was all pretty good. And then finally we came back to New York, and we had a wonderful time back there, and went to work on this station, Channel 7. It was local for 5 years. The guy who was running the station, honest to God, do you remember the King brothers? They were in the lobby every day saying, Regis, syndicate, syndicate, syndicate. And I would go to our boss there at the time. What's his name? He was a good guy. Walter Liss. And I would say, Walter, any chance of syndicating this show? No! We own this show. I said, I know we own the show, Walter. But the station, everybody will make more money if we syndicate it. I don't think so. Anyway, after my 5-year contract was up, I said, Walter, I got to go. We syndicated it. And it turned out to be a great syndication. And out of that grew Disney and ABC syndication and run by Janice. And she's done a marvelous job and pushed us through the whole thing. And it was just great. But about 10 years ago, I ran into Grant Tinker. And we reminisced about what had happened. And I said, Grant, I don't know, because I watch NBC and I watch our ratings, and for the last years, every day, and I don't care if Zucker's here or even Ebersol, they know it better than anybody. Every day for the last 28 years, and every week, and every month, and every year, we have killed NBC in the ratings. Killed them! I'm amazed they're still on the air, although I got to admit, 1 week last year, they kind of caught up. Hey, they had Streisand and the president, so what? So he never told me it was the guys back in New York, and I said, okay, great. So now, 6 weeks ago, the guy who runs this whole NATPE thing, Phil Philbin, you saw him up here in the beginning of the show, with the big hair and the T-shirt. I don't know how he got involved with this place, but he runs it. So he came telling me all about the awards, and great, we're going to have a good time, and so on. And I come to find out that years ago when I started in Hollywood, I worked as a stagehand at KCOP, Channel 13, lifting furniture. In those days, it was all live. You had to carry the stuff out, set it up, strike it, bring it back in. He worked there, too. He was the general manager of the station, though. So we got reminiscing, and then he was at NBC. He's worked everywhere. I said, I had a show on NBC once. Yeah. It was a day late in the, in the making and getting on the air, but nevertheless, I really enjoyed it. I loved being, and then it was cut to a half hour, and that's what killed us. And I never knew who did it, and I couldn't find out from Grant Tinker. So I said, you worked at NBC. Are you listening, Lily? He said, you worked at NBC. I said that to him, and he said, yeah. I said, he said, what year was it? I said, I think it was 1981. Had to be Brandon Tartikoff. So, tonight, Brandon, you and I are together, right there. Finally worked out. But Through the years, I have heard so much about Brandon Tartikoff and his beautiful wife, Lily, and I'm just pleased to be up here with such people as Gerhard and Mary Hart, and of course, Dick Ebersol, one of the great executives in our business. But thank you all very, very much. I've loved it all the 28 years. Thank you.
Just to show you how much Regis rules everything, and now even Facebook, one of my followers found out that I was here tonight and just sent this so now he's all over Facebook, 500 million people. Barbara Lampman, exactly, says, what a career Regis has had. He's truly going out on top. I'm not sure where you're going. Very deserving. I doubt his retirement from the Regis and Kelly show will be the last we see of him. Facebook, they love you. Shows the reach of Regis. Absolutely phenomenal. Well, please welcome back to the stage Lily Tartikoff-Carrots. Lily?
It is such an honor to present Dick Ebersol with the Brandon Tartikoff Legacy Award. The first person Brandon introduced me to at NBC in New York was Dick. They had already taken turns hiring each other. Dick was running SNL and Brandon was running NBC. I remember sitting on Brandon's couch with the two of them and listening to their TV ideas for hours and hours. It was one big run-on conversation that went on for 25 years. Dick was clearly so talented from the beginning. Whether he was working on SNL, producing wrestling, or reining in tens of thousands of people at the Olympics, he approached it all the same, with perfection. He is both the brilliant choreographer behind the scenes, as well as the face of the project, front and center. He does it and makes it look way too easy and way too seamless. Dick Ebersol is the ultimate TV entrepreneur. On a personal note, Dick and Brandon's relationship was obviously cut short, and it's impossible to describe how much they packed in there to make it so monumental and so deep. When Brandon died, their friendship didn't end. Dick continued to take care of the Tartikoff girls, and we will never stop needing our Uncle Dick. And now it is time, Mr. Ebersol, for everyone to see your career.
Events on an epic scale. Moments of history and electricity. Achievements in sports and entertainment, few others can match. As a producer and as an executive, Dick Ebersol is the name behind 8 of the 10 most watched television events of all time. His is a television life marked by daring, by originality, by his ability to understand why we watch and what we care about. His is a life marked by an insatiable curiosity and by a deep-seated humanity. Brandon Tartikoff was among those who play a central role in Ebersol's colorful career. It was Ebersol in 1977 who first hired Tartikoff to work at NBC. And there would later come a time when Tartikoff would hire Ebersol. No matter who was where on the corporate ladder, they remained devoted friends. And as Brandon's NBC gradually established its long dominance in entertainment, Ebersol would admire most of all his colleagues' rare capacity to succeed with grace, style, and humor.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night! NBC Saturday night.
Like Tartikoff, Ebersol was a natural. Before he was even 30 years old, he and Lorne Michaels would give birth to a show that became a cultural institution.
Here's how it works. Catch a bass, remove the hook, and drop the bass. That's the whole bass into the Super Bass-O-Matic 76. Now adjust the control dial.
In this broadcasting life in full, he understood the growing appetite for music videos, even for primetime wrestling, or for a certain brand of late-night talk.
Going through the newsroom saying, Kennedy may have been shot, Kennedy may have been shot, let's get on the air.
Asked to run NBC Sports in 1989, he distinguished himself not just as a skilled producer, but also as a consummate deal-maker. In 1995 and 96, NBC became the first network to broadcast the World Series, the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, and the Summer Olympics in a one-year span. With unprecedented preemptive negotiations, Ebersol has made NBC the home of the Olympics for more than 2 decades. In 2008, the games of the 29th Olympiad from Beijing, China, generated the largest television audience in American history. And in another groundbreaking deal, Ebersol worked with the NFL to move the league's premier game from Monday night to Sunday night. This past season, NBC's Sunday Night Football became TV's first ever sports series to be #1 in prime time. Events on an epic scale.
Expect anything different?
Moments of unfettered joy. And supreme pageantry. Unparalleled achievements in sports and entertainment. Like his friend and colleague, Brandon Tartikoff, Dick Ebersol has embraced the spectrum of human drama. The enduring power of a well-told story. He's a broadcaster who's delivered to so many millions. The images that define our time.
Say, but let me say first that Regis, 16,000 hours and 30 years holding a grudge. I don't know what's the better record. It's very special company to be up here tonight. My eyes are not so good with all the sun shining in, but Gerhard, congratulations to you as the first winner from abroad and for an unbelievable career well spent. And Mary Hart, you've been a part of my life for a long, long time. but most of all because of the man in your life, because in one of the toughest times in my life, when I'd been fired by NBC, the only time I had that good thing happen, because it is important for every one of us to lose a job once, the guy who picked me up and gave me a job was your husband, Bert Sugarman. So thank you very much. And if you'll indulge me a minute on a couple of other little personal quickies. Number one, the person who's made my life for the last 3 decades, who came to New York unsuspecting 30 years ago to be a host of Saturday Night Live. I fell in love, wouldn't let her out of my life. We were married 6 weeks later, and she's still one of the biggest stars I know. Susan St. James, my wife. And sitting just beyond her is the best boss I've ever had, and I've had an awful lot of really great bosses, but for these last 6 or 7 years, Jeff Zucker has been that, he's been my friend, and he's been the best producer in our building. I'm second best. Jeff? But most of all, Lily, I've sort of dodged you on this award for years because I thought it would be really hard, because accepting an award named after my best friend, truly the best friend I've ever had in my entire life. You know, it's really interesting when you hire somebody, which I did with Brandon in the late summer of 1977. I knew he was incredibly bright, funny as all get out, passionate, alive, courageous. He'd already at that point suffered one full bout and won it with cancer in the 70s. But little did I know just how immense his talents were. He worked for me for about 18 months, and then one day he was called down the hall to one of the boss's offices. And I want to talk about a lot about what really made Brandon unlike anybody else, and it starts with grace. He was called into an office down the hallway. Things happen strangely at NBC, Regis. And it was to tell him that he was about to be my boss. And the way it was all timed, he didn't know it either, was that I would be called to another office to be told that I would be working for him. And when I went back down the hall, he had just gone back into that office, waiting for me. And when I walked into that office, he said, "Do you want to do this?" And I said, "You know, it's an awful lot to absorb. I don't know." He said, "Let's get out of here." We left the building, went outside, got in a car, drove to a place we were sure no one would find us, which was actually Bert Sugarman's house. He wasn't home. And we sat there for 4 hours and went back and forth. But mostly it was Brandon talking, because he said, "Look, there's nothing I've ever loved in the world as much as working for you. And I'll do whatever you want me to do." And here's this guy who was not even 30 years old at the time with this huge thing laid out for him. And he was willing to do that. And I looked at him and I said, "No one's ever been this loyal to me in business before and done such a splendid job, an incredible job. I'll go back and work for you." And we left the building, we went back. I think we had them all pretty shook up because they didn't know where the hell we'd been for 4 hours. And I did work for him for a while. It was the best thing I ever did in my life, because when you think of my life over the 30 years since that period of time, all the different things that happened to me. When Lorne left Saturday Night Live, I had left after 2 years, he left after 5. The show had a very rocky year. I didn't particularly want to go back, but Brandon persuaded me to go back, which meant working for the one guy in the world I really had not been able to get along with, who fired me, Fred Silverman. And I had to go back and sit down with Silverman and work it out that I would come back and do the show. And I did that for 4 or 5 years. And then Brandon Tartikoff said, "Why don't you produce a lot of other late night shows?" And that was my entry into late night television. And 4 years into that, and I was happy as hell, he said one day, "We really would like you to run sports at NBC." So this wonderful man has really given me this incredible career. And I feel obligated tonight to tell you one more time, and I think most of us forget it. We remember his hits, We remember the fact that he was the first man, believe it or not, to ever make NBC #1. But I think too many of us forget the things that really made him special. His grace was unbelievable. And we work in a business that chews people up. For so many of you in this room who work in the development of television shows, it's a killer, and it has a failure rate the likes of which no other business has. I would say that I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said that 95% of all the shows are failure. Brandon loved the process so much, he loved the give and take, that the failure didn't ever get to him. And so he treated the people in the creative process with a respect, with a kindness. I don't think there's ever been an executive who got more out of people who had originally failed for him than Brandon did because of the way he dealt with it. Nobody wants to turn in a bad script or a bad show. Nobody wants to feel that sense of disappointment. He never rubbed it in. And those people came back time and time and time again because of that grace. And all that against the backdrop of this incredible personal courage. I mean, I work in a business where, I have to call the truck occasionally during a golf match and say, it isn't courageous whether or not he makes that 9-foot putt. God damn it, don't say that. But this is a guy, it's true. I mean, if he misses the putt, he's still going to get $500,000. I mean, come on. But you will never know a person who had the personal courage in the same package as all of that grace I talked about than Brandon. The cancer that he battled as a boy in the 70s as a young graduate of Yale. He goes to LA and has a whirlwind. I mean, he came to work at NBC the beginning of September of 1977. By the end of 1979, he was the head of the West Coast. And he dealt with a lot of awful, tough times. The part that most people don't realize is that he hadn't had that job 2 years when he got hit by that same cancer again. He timed out every chemo treatment with you with such strength to be on a Friday because he didn't want to leave anybody in the lurch. And he would be back at business on Monday. He was almost hysterically funny in thinking that nobody would notice. I mean, he'd lost all his hair. He had one of the worst goddamn rugs you ever saw in your life. But he wasn't going to give in. And it was in that period of time that NBC suffered through those beginning years with shows that Brandon had a great sense of humor about later on in life. Manimal, I mean, come on, Manimal, half man, half animal. But out of all that, during those first couple of years, and all the different lives he touched with his grace, there's never been an army of people who wanted to do something for somebody like they wanted to do for this incredible man, Brandon Tartikoff. And from that point in about 1983, and when you think of the shows, they weren't just hits. They were defining shows that changed the business. I mean, what Bochco and Brandon did together with Hill Street Blues changed the whole drama form. And on top of that came shows like Cheers, which everybody forgets. When it started, was the lowest rated show on television, and by the end, it was the #1 rated show. And Cosby, God, that phenomenon went on and on for Brandon, uninterrupted for 7 or 8 years until he went off to the motion picture business. And then, right when his whole life was together in his hands, he went through 2 unbelievable things with Lily, 2 terrible, horrible things. A horrid car crash, which almost took Calla, his lovely daughter. It almost took him. It didn't stop him, and it didn't stop Lily Tartikoff. They are an example to everybody in the world of how not to let anything make you a victim. These are people who have spent their entire life fighting the odds, but always doing it with a smile and with grace. And after they went through all that, he was hit with cancer the 3rd time. Believe me, through that period of time, you never would have known it. I mean, that unbelievable strength. And so every year when he's celebrated at this event, as much as we all remember the hits, as much as we all remember this incredible first dynasty that NBC ever had, what I beg everybody to remember is what kind of a man he was, what kind of a life he led, because it's an example that I don't think any of us, as hard as we try, could ever live up to. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think I speak for all of us when this has been an absolutely tremendous night in the history of television. Thank you so much, everybody. The night is over. Thank you to all our presenters as well. And go about and have fun. We'll see you at 10 o'clock. Darrell Hall. Thank you. You're welcome.